Hello and welcome. It's no secret that Chinese companies are among the leaders when it comes to the adoption and development of EVs. And here in the Chinese car market, there's not a lot of different kinds of EVs you can't buy. An SUV, a hatchback, heck, even an EV wagon, they've got one of those. But if you wanted a large, mid-size, or even full-size premium EV sedan, say something that could take on the likes of the legendary Mercedes-Benz E-Class, well, you didn't really have any options. That is, until this came along. But before we get to the review, I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Aura.
In case you didn't realize it, identity theft is serious, costing American consumers $56 billion in 2020 alone. That's 56 billion reasons why you need to start protecting your identity today. That's why we are thrilled to be sponsored by Aura. Scammers never stop trying to find new ways to take advantage of our online world, and what looks like a harmless meme can be a way to get your personal information. With Aura, you get identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, antivirus software, a password manager, and a VPN all in a single, easy-to-use app. They'll even monitor the dark web for your personal information like social security number, addresses, phone number, even your bank accounts, and alert you about any suspicious activity via their app or via email up to 4 times faster than their competition. You can turn on their VPN to browse anonymously, or turn on their antivirus capabilities to protect yourself against known threats that are lurking online. Support our channel and protect your identity by going to aura.com/wheelsboy to get a 2-week free trial.
All right, now let's get back to the review.
With hands-on test drives and reviews of exciting Chinese market vehicles, Wheelsboy is the #1 source for China auto insights. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook.
This is the ET7, a full-size premium sedan from one of China's best-known automakers, NIO. This car, as far as I can tell, is the first of its kind and potentially a big hallmark in the development of Chinese EVs, because it is entering a segment that has long been dominated by European car makers, the premium full-size sedan segment. It's also going to be on sale in Europe later this year, including in Germany. When NIO debuted this car, they made it clear that their biggest rival wasn't going to be Tesla. It was going to be the likes of Mercedes-Benz and BMW. What better way to test this car than to put it up against one of the benchmarks of the premium European sedan segment, the Mercedes-Benz E-Class. This is a Mercedes-Benz E350EL, a plug-in hybrid extended wheelbase version of the E-Class, only available here in China. I would of course love to bring you a review of this car versus the EQE, but the EQE still isn't available here in the Chinese market. But the ET7 isn't available in Europe yet, so here we are.
There is no official European price for the ET7 as of yet, but the price tag of $68,000 to $80,000 here in China puts it right in line with the locally produced version of the E-Class we'll be driving today. The asking price of the ET7 can be lowered to as little as $56,000 if you choose the battery as a service option, basically buying the car but leasing the battery from NIO. A 70 kilowatt-hour battery pack costs around $150 per month, while a 100 kilowatt-hour pack will set you back $220. We suspect the ET7 will cost more than your standard E-Class when it debuts in Europe, but around the same price or even less than an EQE.
Let's set the standard by talking about the exterior styling of the E-Class first. This is an E-Class L, which means it has a slightly longer wheelbase than that of a standard E-Class, but that does nothing to dilute this car's very handsome 3-box sedan shape. The liberal use of chrome throughout the exterior lets you know that this is a Mercedes-Benz from every angle, and that's a compliment. The E-Class and the ET7 could not be any more different. This is NIO's first attempt at a sedan design, and I have to say, I think they've done a good job of adapting the design language of their SUV lineup to the sedan shape. The result is a sleek, lift-back car with a very low coefficient to drag of just 0.208 that ties the Tesla Model S and is second only to the Mercedes-Benz EQS.
Apart from the striking double-dash daytime running lights, the most noticeable thing about the ET7's front-end design is the so-called watchtower sensor array, which is integrated above the windshield and includes a center LiDAR flanked by 2 8-megapixel cameras. The flanks of the ET7 are smooth and simple, with the beltline and roofline intersecting at a subtle rear spoiler. The taillight is equally minimalist, but still gives it a very recognizable rear profile. A comparison to the EQE would seem appropriate at this point, but I'm not sure the electric Mercedes would fare very well. It clearly takes after the humpbacked EQS, and while it rivals the ET7 in terms of looking futuristic, I have difficulty calling it beautiful or even good looking.
Despite that liftback roofline, this car does have a traditional trunk opening and a frankly disappointing 364 liters of space, considering the fact that it's 5.1 meters in length. Compare that to the standard E-Class, which has 540 liters of space, and the EQE, which has 430 liters. Now, for context though, this plug-in E-Class is even worse than the ET7. There's no official number, but man, this is a small trunk due to the battery pack back here.
The inside of the Mercedes-Benz E-Class shows why the company is known for some of the best interior design in the business. Material quality is nearly impeccable and leaves you feeling cocooned in leather and wood. Despite the two big screens, it definitely feels like the best of old-school luxury. From what we've seen of the EQE, it seems to retain the same level of quality, but the optional hyperscreen also seems positively overwhelming. Call it a personal preference, but the sheer amount of fingerprint-attracting black surfaces on that screen gives me anxiety. While I haven't been able to sit inside an EQE, I have sat in an EQS equipped with the hyperscreen, and the experience did nothing to dissuade me from my conclusions.
The E-Class, especially the extended wheelbase versions like this one, are considered the gold standard when it comes to transporting people here in China. And if you spend a few minutes in the back seat, you will understand why. There is just as much soft leather and wood as there is in the front row. And you also have a few different functions you can do, such as opening and closing your shade up here. But apart from that, all you have are two USB ports and this armrest, which actually looks like it would have a wireless charging pad, but it actually doesn't. Now that we've seen what the German has to offer, let's talk a little bit about the ET7. Sitting inside this car will go a long way towards helping you forget just how small that trunk is, because passenger compartment space is copious. You also have seriously comfortable seats with high adjustability. Both first and second row are heated, cooled, and massaging in this car. The overall look is, it's very light and airy, thanks to the combination of the big panoramic glass roof and the minimalist design.
The design is a departure from the first generation of NIO models, and now features hidden air vents and a much smaller, less integrated instrument cluster. You also have a very interesting window switch design, with simple silver toggles. The effect is definitely more Tesla-like than prior NIOs, but the ET7 does retain some of the brand's signature features. Take for example the shift lever, which remains one of the best, most ergonomic designs I've ever used in a car. They've also kept a few physical buttons on the center console, including driving mode, hazards, and a lock and unlock button. The UI on the 12.8-inch center screen is intuitive and easy to navigate.
You can also still get Nomi, the little robotic assistant that sits on the dashboard up here. I have to admit that even though I don't really feel the need to personify my operating system like this, it is fun to watch her little displays and to see her turn and look at you when you talk to her. What's even more fun, however, is the 23-speaker Dolby Atmos surround sound system that comes in this car as standard. The interior material qualities of the ET7 are in keeping with its aspirations as a premium vehicle. The leather, Nappa leather, is soft and thick throughout, as is the padding on the upper dash and upper doors. The plastics even, they feel soft and premium. The only area that lets this car down is this material that you can find here on the center console as well as throughout the interior of the car. It's called Karoon, and it's an environmentally friendly material made from rattan. I appreciate NIO and other companies using more environmentally friendly materials and processes on their cars. I think that's a great thing, but I can't help but tell you, this just feels like cheap fake wood compared to the open pore wood on that Mercedes-Benz E-Class. I can actually feel a seam or something here. It just doesn't feel very premium, and I'm hoping they can improve the process for this material in the future. The back seat of the ET7 is absolutely massive. Larger certainly than a standard E-Class and bigger even than the extended wheelbase E-Class that we were just in. Here between the seats you have a 6.6-inch touchscreen that is used to control functions such as the heated, cooled, and massaging seats that I mentioned before, as well as the media and air conditioning. You get the same type of armrest as the Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and I kind of wish that they had taken this little screen and put it here, because this thing kind of feels a little far away just because of the sheer size of this back seat. Speaking of this armrest though, this is one of the few areas that I felt a little disappointed when it came to material quality. This plastic, honestly, it just feels flimsy and cheap, especially when compared to the plastics in the rest of the interior.
But enough sitting around, let's see how these things compare on the road.
I'm not going to get bogged down in the performance numbers of this car because I already know that it is much slower and less powerful than the ET7. I will, however, tell you for context that this plug-in hybrid E-Class combines a 2-liter 4-cylinder with a rear-mounted electric motor for a total of 235 kilowatts and 450 newton-meters of torque. That's about 315 horsepower and 330 pound-feet. It also has a 25 kilowatt-hour battery, which provides a 101 kilometer range on the WLTC cycle. Since I already know that the ET7 can outdo this car in terms of raw speed, what I really want to know is whether the ET7 can deliver the same combination of buttery smooth ride and competent, if not sporty, handling of this car. The only way to find out is to drive it.
The ET7 is the first NIO model to ride on the company's second-generation technology platform, NT 2.0. It can be optioned with a 70 kilowatt-hour or 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack, delivering 500 and 700 kilometers of NEDC range, respectively. Like other NIO models, drivers can also swap batteries at one of the company's 900 battery swapping stations spread throughout China. Of course, the number everyone remembers from the ET7's debut is 1,000 kilometers of range, but that was contingent on the company's plan to introduce a 150 kilowatt-hour solid-state battery. NIO says that promised battery will be available starting later this year. Regardless of which battery pack you choose, all versions of the ET7 come with front and rear mounted motors making a total of 480 kilowatts and 850 newton-meters of torque. That's 644 horsepower and 630 pound-feet. In order to beat its official 0 to 100 km/h time of 3.8 seconds, you'll need to spend big money for an AMG Mercedes like the E63 or EQE53, both of which cost over $100,000 US.
On paper, at least, that makes the ET7 the fastest Chinese car that I've ever driven. But does it really feel that fast on the road? Absolutely yes. This thing is blistering quick and smooth while doing it. The smoothness can be attributed to the fact that all ET7s come standard with air suspension. The E-Class, the one we're driving today, only has multi-link, not air suspension, and air suspension is an added cost option on that car.
I mentioned that the E-Class was competent but not sporty, and I think that phrase can just as easily be applied to the ET7. In the Sport and Sport Plus driving modes, the air suspension keeps body roll and brake dive well under control, but despite the fact that the more powerful motor is mounted in the rear, this car definitely feels front drive biased, with a lot of plowing through corners when pushed. It also falls behind the E-Class a bit in terms of steering and brake feel, both of which feel more solid on the German sedan.
That's not exactly a killing blow in a segment that emphasizes cruising comfort over raw handling prowess, and indeed, cruising comfort is something that this car delivers in absolute abundance. Put it in comfort mode and it is an absolute pillow, but it remains pretty composed, doesn't feel too floaty over bumps.
The ET7's driver assistance system, NIO Pilot, is one of the first to utilize LiDAR as part of its sensor array. The LiDAR system is said to allow the ET7 to detect objects up to 500 meters away and with more reliability than cameras alone, particularly in harsh weather or low light conditions. We found the system to be reliable, but its performance wasn't remarkably different from its competition.
When it comes to the unique EV attributes of this car, they're also quite good. Take, for example, the regen settings. There are 3, low, medium, and high. High is quite strong, which is the way that I like it personally. However, it does not bring the car completely to a stop the way that a Tesla would. I imagine that this is a compromise for all those people who are coming over from the Mercedes-Benz and BMW ICE vehicles. They're just not used to that driving style.
Mercedes-Benz has been building cars since 1926, while NIO was only founded in 2014. That means the German company has a nearly 100-year head start on the Chinese. But after driving these two sedans for about a week, I can tell you that the difference between them isn't as big as you might expect. And the Mercedes certainly feels more solid and tank-like than the NIO, but the electric upstart still delivers a winning combination of comfort and performance.
Is the ET7 a better car overall than this Mercedes-Benz E-Class? I don't know if that's true in every aspect, but the fact that this new car can go blow for blow with one of the absolute legends of the premium sedan segment, well, that's a pretty good sign for this Chinese company.